Well, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but we've done it. We've come to that. We've come to that point where I am going to talk about a coach, not a player. And the reason for this is I've already touched on this coach before on this channel when I was talking about, and I apologize, Dashin or Deshaun. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the prospect's name who's currently on in the G League. Funny enough, Knicks, according to Mick Cronin, should have been on this UCLA team, which has now gone from the first four to the final four. I would have thought it was the first team to do it. Turns out that VCU, again, as an 11 seed like UCLA, they went from the first four to the final four in, I believe, 2011, the article I just read stated. But here's my thing. I like that Mick Cronin is doing what guys like Steve Alford before him couldn't, which is to turn around this UCLA team, because it's one of those arguments like, is college basketball just better when UCLA? I mean, I would argue when teams like Georgetown, yes. You just want those Georgetown teams. Like, they just represent so much. I think Georgetown's so important because of what they represent beyond just basketball. I think UCLA is mostly, it's just about basketball. So I don't know how important it is for them to necessarily, isn't it just better when UCLA is good? I haven't really missed them all that much. But here's my thing with Mick Cronin, and this is why, depending on what happens, this guy could end up, and let's just imagine UCLA actually gets some recruits, because I can't name a single guy on this team. So let's imagine a time 2-3 years from now where UCLA really starts picking up the recruiting, and they start nailing those guys that we've actually heard of coming out of high school, Cade Cunningham, the Zion Williamsons of the world, those top flight guys coming out of high school that are going to be one and done in college. Let's see if UCLA, and maybe that's where Mick Cronin in his first couple years at UCLA decided, I'm not going to do that. Maybe that is what guys like Steve Alford did before him, and that's what caused Alford to have limited amounts of success. USC had Bow Wow on their team. Okay, so when the team across the city has got Bow Wow on it, you should really say to yourself, now we can go one route. We can go the route of USC, where we have OJ Mayo and Bow Wow, and eventually USC would get guys like Taj Gibson or whatever, but we get all that. USC is never going to amount to anything. Now, USC got the guy from Florida Gulf Coast, and I know USC was in the tournament this year, whatever, but let's be real. USC is basketball, and UCLA USC is football, and UCLA is basketball. That's just how it is. Like, we have a high school around here. It's called, or a town around here. It's called Sylvania. It's more of a city, but it ain't the big city. And Sylvania is split up into two high schools: Sylvania Northview and Sylvania Southview. And depending on what sport you play, you go to that particular high school, or really that team. Like, if you play hockey, you go to Northview, for example. And if you play football, you go to Southview. At least that's how it used to be. I don't know anymore, but that's how it used to be. But UCLA just, because that's the other thing too. USC's football is down. UCLA has Chip Kelly, and so it really feels like UCLA is doesn't really have an identity. Like, they don't know if they want to go after football. They have a former NFL head coach, and the guy who took Oregon to ridiculous heights. They're really trying to push football at UCLA, because why wouldn't you? It's even more than college basketball. Even though there might be more corruption and crazy stuff going on in college basketball, and we've seen it with the FBI wiretaps just of a few years ago. I mean, football, I don't understand it. It's the big money maker, but if you're UCLA, every resource you have should be going towards being a basketball school. This is something I've struggled with. I sarcastically, in a way, became a fan of Kansas football because Kansas hired Les Miles. And yeah, Les Miles ran into some trouble, got fired, and he's been disgraced and all that. But before that, he led LSU to a national championship. So you had a national championship winning coach coaching Kansas football. It just and if you're Kansas, you already have Bill Self, right? Like their coaching is totally set. But it just feels like yes, you want to compete across all your sports. Like you want to be competitive in all your sports. As an athletic program, you don't want to have those glaring weak spots, especially if it's football. But I mean, if you're Kansas, you're a national title contending team in basketball every year. Is it really that important to be a dominant football program? Because what did Kansas do? Kansas just got themselves into a whole bunch of hot water for no reason. Had a whole bunch of people in trouble because they decided to get in bed with Les Miles, who, brings the winning, but then brings this other off the field stuff that got a lot of people in trouble. So I don't know. I don't really think Chip Kelly needs to be at UCLA. And I could argue, how did Mick Cronin get to UCLA as the men's basketball coach? Okay, so this is really my motivation. Like when I see that Mick Cronin has UCLA in the Final Four, it makes my blood boil to an okay, you probably can't see this, okay? Okay, you probably can't see this. Let me go back. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this, but this is the worst. This is the worst bracket you'll ever see, okay? And I've been on this string now for several years where I can't pick a tournament game to save my life. And partially because I strapped myself to the Cincinnati rocket ship on more than one occasion. Cincinnati won 30 games in 16-17. They won 31 games in 17-18. And they won a combined 2 NCAA tournament games. In 2 years, they won 2 NCAA tournament games despite winning 61 games in 2 years. That's underperforming. That's underperforming in March, Mick Cronin. It just is. So you want to go back to the let's call it the modern era when Cincinnati shifted conferences to the AAC. As the AAC Cincinnati Bearcats, Mick Cronin led them to records of 27-7, 23-11, 22-11, 30-6, 31-5, 28-7, and despite winning at least 22 games every year, winning at least 27 games 4 times, this guy managed to only win 3 NCAA tournament games in that span. And, I guess it's, that maybe that's why he then took the UCLA job. He saw, hey, I'm winning 30 games and I can't get into the Sweet 16. Is that the player's fault? Is that the fact that you can only recruit so much talent at Cincinnati? Or is that, I'm Mick Cronin and I'm not actually that good of a coach, but I have all these hoopers from the big city of Cincinnati that actually mess around and win me 30 games, and then I don't have what it takes to get them where they need to be in the tournament because I'm inept as a head coach? Maybe. But then he goes and he 19-12, no postseason last year for anyone. So he went 19-12, 12-6 in the Pac-12, and then 22-9, 13-6 in the Pac-12. But where has this Final Four run gone? Because he did make the Sweet 16 one time with Cincinnati back in 2012. A 26-11 Cincinnati team made the Sweet 16, and then they were eliminated in the first round, eliminated in the first round, eliminated in the second round, eliminated in the first round, eliminated in the second round, eliminated in the second round. Those 2 straight second round eliminations were for 30-win teams, and then a 28-7 Cincinnati team, again, eliminated in the first round. So I don't know. I'm really confused how Mick Cronin has just immediately taken a team that has notoriously struggled. I mean, worse than Cincinnati struggles have been in the postseason, right? Like they just haven't been able to get over the hump. UCLA has just struggled, period. Who's the biggest name that UCLA's put into the NBA in the last 5 or 10 years? Kevon Looney. Before that, what was it? Jordan Farmar. I mean, am I missing someone? Jordan Farmar to Kevon Looney. Am I missing someone? Oh yeah, okay. Zach LaVine. Okay, Zach LaVine, I'm pretty sure is one of those guys that he was one and done for UCLA until while Zach LaVine turns into a 30-point scorer in the NBA and is an all-star and whatever, it doesn't do much for the UCLA program. And I think they actually, Kevon Looney actually took them somewhere. Let's just, you know what, since we're just down a rabbit hole, and I know that UCLA's put guys in the pros, but like not like they used to. And beyond that, those one and dones like a Zach LaVine, they didn't end up turning it around for UCLA. UCLA had Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love, and I don't remember them doing much. When Russell Westbrook was drafted to the Seattle Supersonics, my head exploded because it was one of the first and the NFL. It had been happening to me, like, and it had already started where guys were getting drafted. And when I mean glued, I mean my eyes would be glued to college football, and there'd still be guys that just I'd never heard of get drafted. And so this was the first time I was like, Russell Westbrook? Who is that? I was furious. Absolutely furious. Kevon Looney is a 2-time NBA champion. Put some respect on his name, okay? We're gonna back this up. College stats. There we go. Kevon Looney was a double-double machine. The career 12-9 for the UCLA. Kevon Looney played one season at UCLA. Come on. What did they do that year? They went 22-14 under Steve Alford, 11-7, finished 4th in the Pac-12. And let's see who they had. Norman Powell was a senior. Okay, Thomas player, Basketball Reference. I've freaking never heard of him. Now, obviously, when I, as a Bowling Green fan, check out the old Bowling Green teams, and it says Keith McLeod was an NBA player, and people are like, you know what? I'm gonna be biased here. Keith McLeod was an NBA player. Thomas Welsh was never an NBA player, because I can pay attention to the NBA as an adult to know that Thomas Welsh has never stepped on an NBA floor. Keith McLeod was playing to the point where Kevin Garnett, and I've had this story passed down to me from friends. I think my friend Tyler was the first one to ever tell me it, that Kevin Garnett went out buying jewelry for Keith McLeod. He was so real, okay? So for whatever that's worth, Keith McLeod was a real NBA player, okay? The Uncut Gems. Keith McLeod is Uncut Gems, fool. I cannot believe Norman Powell was a 4-year player for UCLA. And he's turned into this. And not only did he play 4 years in college, but then Norman Powell is one of those guys that really had to develop at the NBA level. This goes back to what I was saying in the was it the Dwight? No, it wasn't the Dwight Mayer video, but maybe it was the Knicks video. It's all coming back to that. When I was talking about the 2015 Duke team and all that, Norman Powell spent 4 years in college and still had to develop at the NBA level. Jahlil Okafor. So who do you think you are? Oh, I don't want to play for the Philadelphia Sixers. I'm going to let Rashawn Holmes literally take my job. You know what? Let's do it. We've waited long enough. We have waited long enough. I've noticed that's a theme in these videos. I start with something, and then something else just fires me up to the point where, like, I can barely remember. Who are we talking about? Mick Cronin being a bust of a coach and somehow getting UCLA to the Final Four? Yeah, well, I've got Jahlil Okafor to take down right now instead. No way. Jahlil Okafor. Oh, someone give me his height. He averages a career 5 rebounds. Career. less than 5 rebounds, 4.9. How tall is Jahlil Okafor? No. This man's listed height is 6'11". He was the number 3 overall pick, and he thought he was better than the 76ers. Dude, you're 25 years old, and you have nothing to show for it. I mean, I'm on the back nine of my 20s, and I have barely anything to show for my life here on Earth. But if you're Jahlil Okafor, you have much more to be concerned about because you're 25 years old and you are on the verge, and it's been years that he's been on the verge of not even being in the NBA. He plays for the Pistons. Do you want to know who the Pistons are? I'll tell you who the Pistons are. The Pistons are the definitive second worst team in the NBA behind the Minnesota Timberwolves. Holy crap. Oh, and guess what? I'm pretty sure he makes less than Richaun Holmes already. Richaun Holmes hasn't even gotten paid yet. Man, if I would have known, I could have just... And that's not what this is about. We're here to talk about real things happening in sports, real current events. We want to be nuanced. We don't want to... I think my father was trying to... Are you nice to anyone? I'm not trying to attack these players. It really... it's just like I was saying before, with the contracts, I get mad at the organizations unless you're Albert Pujols, for example. But the way that Jahlil Okafor would just act like such a disrespectful, like the 76ers owed him something. They didn't owe him anything. He owed them good basketball because they drafted him number 3 overall. He owed them. Oh my God. Jahlil Okafor is making less than he's making $1.8 million this year. He's making $1.8 million this year. And now, because I know that Richaun Holmes is finishing a 2-year, $10 million deal. I just want to see these two guys that came in together. I need to see Richaun Holmes making more money. I just need to see it with my eyes. Oh, gosh. Oh, an average salary of 4.8. He's literally making $3 million more this year. Richaun Holmes is making $3 million more this year than Jahlil Okafor. And you want to know why Jahlil Okafor? Because he's better and he worked hard and he didn't just spit in the face of an organization who drafted him 3 overall. What a disgrace. You look like a freaking idiot bum anyway. You look like Tim Duncan's weird uncle. You almost look like Tim Duncan's dad, for God's sakes. So, that might be the worst I ever go in on a guy because I want to show far more journalistic integrity than that. Talking up Norman Powell, for example, or Richaun Holmes, any of these guys, any of these real basketball players. Kevon Looney, 2-time champion. I said it, but put respect on his name. I was wrong. He wasn't one and done. He certainly didn't help the UCLA program at all. But, hey. Wait, no. Actually, 2014, 2015, they went 22-14 overall. Where'd they finish out? Sweet 16. I knew it. Kevon Looney actually impacted winning, even in his 1 year. When you have a 4-year player like Norman Powell next to him, that's how you end up going a respectable 22-14 and getting to the Sweet 16. I have to imagine that's as far as Steve Alford ever really got. 15-17 the next year. Oh, wow. 31-5. They made the Sweet 16 again in 16-17. Who was on their... okay. So that's the Lonzo Ball year. So that is a guy I was missing on. But again, Lonzo Ball, one and done. He helped their program to an extent. He got them back to the Sweet 16 after a down year, but they just couldn't build on that. And so I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see the type of recruiting decisions that Mick Cronin makes. Do you really build your team around guys like Jahlil Okafor? And I get Anthony Davis was on the 2012 Kentucky team and that all freshman team. But then even look at that team. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, he spent a decade in the NBA nearly not knowing how to shoot a basketball. Like actually did not understand what it took to make the ball go into the hoop from the jump shot. He didn't. And so even look at that team that was just like, and Anthony Davis he's really struggled with injuries throughout his career, but he really struggled with them early in his career when he was still on the, funny enough, the New Orleans Hornets. So I just think we should really consider the type of recruiting decisions Mick Cronin's going to make here. 21-12, 17-16. It just looks like Alford was running into mediocrity. Who was on this 18-19? Because it was his last team. No one I've ever. Oh, Sharif O'Neal. And gosh, can something come of him? Maybe. Sharif. Okay, so he transferred to LSU. Okay. Well, we'll see if Sharif O'Neal can turn into something. But yeah, it looks like that was the recruiting win that turned into a loss for. Oh wow, right here is a 2018 recruiting class. Sharif O'Neal was their best. Who's Moses Brown? Moses Brown is on the Oklahoma City Thunder. What? Dude, Moses Brown was a 5-star recruit in the class of 2018. Played 18-19 that 1 year at UCLA and went undrafted in the NBA draft, you guys. That's what I mean. Okay, G League first teamer. I don't care. Something really sits tying all these points back into the original video, the Dacian Nix video, however you pronounce his first name. He might as well be the new Spot Rack of this channel. Spot Rack. I don't understand how you can be a 5-star recruit, spend 1 year in college, and then just like, who told him? What professional advice? Oh, dude, you would kill it as a guy that goes undrafted as a one and done. I can't think of a better career opportunity for you than to leave school after 1 year, even when you're about to get a brand new head coach who could possibly help you at the next level. Because I talked before how Mick Cronin had a few NBA guys at Cincinnati, and clearly guys still view UCLA as this factory for NBA players. I mean, I slipped on a few like Norman Powell and Lonzo Ball. But come on, Moses Brown. If you're being told that you're more than likely not going to get picked, don't go to the draft. I don't see the value in making money and making $50,000 for the G League as opposed to getting your education. If you can manage it. Some guys, they just can't. And so maybe that's where Moses Brown fell into the I don't care about an education. I don't care about school whatsoever. I'm here to play in the NBA. Well, okay. I would then say two things. One, you definitely need to dominate in basketball then if that's the only thing you're going to do. And two, make sure you're going to get drafted. I just can't say it any other way. Like you cannot be a one and done and go undrafted. That's just absurdity. That's ludicrous. You're cheating yourself at that point. And maybe that's where I can gain some of my integrity back with my listeners and my viewers. I do, how can you not care about a kid? I've never met Moses Brown. This is the first time I've even freaking heard of him. And yet my heart goes out to a kid. He's only 21 years old from New York City, New York. He's 21 years old. And like I said with Joel Okafor, it's like he has his whole life ahead of him. But he's playing on the Oklahoma City Blue? What? You might as well just be playing for the Bruins. How is the UCLA Bruins are ultimately a bigger spotlight? It's I think that's more of an opportunity just because you're not directly connected contractually potentially with an NBA team via the G League. Who cares? Ultimately the spotlight and your ability to make yourself that much more known I probably would have heard of Moses Brown had he been a junior center on this UCLA team, and think they would be probably the favorites to win it if they still had this 5-star Moses Brown from New York City on their team. He'd be a freaking junior. But that's not how it works anymore, is it? I guess you'd rather go. And like I've said, like I know a guy in the G League, but he went and got his 4-year education. Like he is set, and now he can go pursue a dream in basketball, and he can stretch that out for as long as he wants. And then if and when his basketball career comes to an end, guess what? He gets to do whatever he wants because he has a 4-year education, and he stayed and made those connections and made it possible for him to have a life after basketball. What is Moses Brown's life after basketball now? Go back to New York City and just try to make it or something. I mean, not to be that dark, but my gosh, what else? I don't know. So maybe that was Steve Alford's demise. He couldn't hang on to these kids. So then Mick Cronin comes in, and look at that. Signs 2 dudes. The previous recruiting class had all these guys. Yeah, Jalen Hands, sophomore point guard, selected 56th overall by the Clippers. At least he stayed a second year. But again, Jalen Hands, second-round pick, late second-round pick, who is, what's FMP? The G League. See, because there for a second I was thinking maybe, what is FMP? I don't even know where this guy plays. He could be a senior on this Final Four team. He put up some really good numbers his sophomore year. The ABA League. Dude. He plays for the former Yugoslavia League. And he could be a senior in college playing in the Final Four. That just disgusts me. I'm sorry. That just really does not sit well with me. I wish these kids got better advice. I wish these kids got much better advice. I have John Wooden's page pulled up like I was even going to reference it. The guy has so many championships. He made the UCLA Bruins, and it's crazy because when the Celtics were doing their thing, might have been a little bit after, but like UCLA started doing their thing. I think they lined up at one, like maybe the Celtics started first, and then or I guess I got to do it this way. I guess the Celtics started first, and then the UCLA Bruins carried their success on longer. But still, when Red Auerbach was doing his thing with the Boston Celtics, John Wooden was doing his thing with the UCLA Bruins. Mick Cronin is not in no way going to be John Wooden. Let's see him get one championship, let alone 12 or whatever. But you know what? We've gone this long. Why? I should at least look up how many championships he has. 12-year period as head coach for the UCLA Bruins. Wait, no. Who won 10 national championships in a 12-year period, including 7 in a row. No other team has won more than 4. So definitely just win one, Mick Cronin, but excuse me. I am awfully gassy this morning. I apologize. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to end this thing. I'm so gassy. We'll see. We'll see, Mick Cronin, what you turn out to be for the Bruins, but it looks like it already he's not going for those, and maybe it's because UCLA isn't in a position to score those recruits right now. But I mean, he signed a 3-star recruit. He signed I didn't even know that UCLA let 3 stars come in the door. I mean, Bowling Green school, like Mid-American Conference schools, live off of 3-star recruits. That's how they get it done. I wouldn't assume that UCLA would even let a 3-star through the door on their basketball team. But hopefully that's a sign of things. Hopefully that's a sign of they're going to build around guys who are there to stay, not guys like Jalen Hands who'd rather go play in the former Yugoslavic League than play in the Final Four. Like what ultimately, I guess too, like it's a matter of we really should probably do a video, because I'm borderline attacking these guys when I have to think about the idea of privilege and the idea that they don't come from similar backgrounds where they can maybe even afford that, and that's the injustice. If you're committed to play for a school, that school should make sure that you're there to stay for 4 years. They've promised you, they've promised your family, they've promised who's taking care of you that they will now be the ones to take care of you. So they ought to. They ought to take care of you. There should be no reason under any circumstance that a student should feel as though they need to leave school to afford things for their family. That to me is ridiculous. These institutions make, whether they're profiting is one thing, but they pull in so much money that when they're asking kids who otherwise, they wouldn't be there maybe on academics, they're there because of their athletic prowess. They should be helped at every turn, both academically and financially. There, I've said it. Maybe I don't need to do the video anymore because I've really laid out how I feel about it. And it's funny because when I was growing up, my brother said they need to pay college. My eldest brother, John, said they need to pay college athletes, and I was like, because I didn't understand. I was just a kid. I was so bought into the pageantry of college athletics, and it is true. It is true. Like there is a sense you get from going to any college football game that you'll never get from an NFL game. Or NFL games are so overrated. I mean, I enjoy them, but I'm also a Browns fan who's both Browns games I've gone to, they've gotten smashed because they weren't good, and it's just a bunch of drunk people. Like with my friend Joe, the last Cleveland Browns game I went to, I had to threaten violence more or less against a guy to get him to leave my friend alone, because my friend, he did elect to wear a Justin Tucker jersey, and that comes with the territory. But the Browns were like 0-5, they were like 0-14. Like, dude, calm down. Just calm down, or I will. We may or may not and have a brouhaha here shortly. Oh gosh, one last thing. I just wanted to check see if they brought anyone else in. UCLA. Four-star Jalen Clark. They brought him in this year. Yeah. No. Yeah. Did he play? I think he played. Jalen Clark. Jalen Clark. Let's see. 2.5 points. So maybe let's see if 2.5 points and 2.5 rebounds is enough to get this Jalen Clark to stay. And maybe again, I can't be sure if it's they're just not scoring the higher recruits, or if Mick Cronin has he's consciously decided that this is a way to take the program, to get guys that are going to stay, to get guys that aren't going to they're not going to turn down a chance of playing a Final Four to go play in a Slavic league or a D or G league or whatever. So let's just see. This is far and away the longest I've ever gone. I appreciate you guys for being here. It's funny. I wear like some days I'm in a shirt and tie. Other days I'm in illicit substance sweatshirts. The next day after I'm in a student legal services t-shirt. I mean, I really cover all my bases. And I try to be fair, try to remain objective, try to see both sides. So I really appreciate everyone that stopped by today, and for those that listened, it's really speaking about a privilege. It's really a privilege that I can sit here in my apartment during a pandemic and just broadcast my thoughts about sports to you guys. And I know this has already been long-winded, but I just wanted to genuinely reach out and say, for those that watch and support, it means the world to me. It's like I was ripping Jalil Okafor, and hey, Jalil, you'll find it, man. I don't mean to be that mean to you. You'll figure out something. You're only 25. Go back to school if you want. I mean, seriously, just give up on the NBA. You don't need the NBA. You made that obvious when you threw your jersey down. Like, you don't need the NBA, man. Or if you don't go back to school, just do. You have the money now. Just go do something you enjoy. You're only 25, and good luck to the other good luck to the other kids I was talking about, Moses and the kid from the Youth Slavic League. Just, I really, honestly, good luck to you guys. That's all I have to say. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Mick Cronin, this is the last 35 minutes you'll ever get out of me. I'm so devastated that you torpedoed each and every one of my brackets the last several years. And then this year you made it even worse, because why would I ever pick a freaking first four team to make the Final Four? And you went ahead and did it. So you win your tournament championship, you get a nice seed, and you blow it every year, and then you get upset by Oregon State in the Pac-12 title or in the Pac-12 tournament, and you somehow, as a first four team, turn around and make the Final Four. For the life of me, I can't understand it. But Mick Cronin, my gosh, what were you thinking? I could not believe of every coach across every sport, the first coach I chose to cover was friggin' Mick Cronin. Have a great rest of your day.